more emotional debate on the proposed event center. A major power outage hits the city's Northwood area. And the Prime Minister calls for an investigation of one of his MPs. Good evening and thank you for being with us. It was another passionate meeting last night over the proposed event center.
The concerned taxpayers of Thunder Bay hosted the session at the Da Vinci Centre. They're calling for a ballot box question on the project, and some supporters of the event center were at the meeting as well. Dennis Ward reports.
And if you don't give me a vote, I am going to withhold my tax, and I don't care if anybody else does. I am going to start a riot.
Clearly, the issue over a ballot box question on the proposed event center is getting very emotional for some people. Concerned Taxpayers Chair Ray Smith says only a very small portion of the city are against the idea of a plebiscite, and he discredits there being a large group of supporters for the project.
Most of those people, that's all they're worried about is location, not whether we should be building this or not. And most of those people either own property in the downtown North Ward or they have a business down there. So they're not really true representative of the city of Thunder Bay.
Let them speak for themselves.
Well, I am a young person, so I am speaking for myself.
Some of those who do want the event center to go ahead were given the chance to speak at the meeting, but they were quickly heckled by the crowd of close to 100 people. Steve Robinson expected he'd be booed for his views. Still, he doesn't think the event center is as divisive as it's coming across.
I don't think it is. I think right now a group like this is getting a lot more attention in media, so I appreciate that the other side will get their voice. And you know, there is a committee that's putting together in favor of the multiplex, and I think you'll be hearing more from them as well.
Despite a handful of people who spoke in favor of the project, the crowd was overwhelmingly against an event center, no matter the circumstances.
I'm not supporting Innova Park. I'm certainly not supporting downtown Port Arthur. We're going to tear out a whole bunch of revenue-bearing properties to put in something that likely won't be revenue-bearing. And the restaurateurs over there think it's going to be a benefit to them. Hell, they're going to put 6 or 8 restaurants in it. So what good's that to them? I think there's a whole bunch of confused people out there.
The concerned taxpayers of Thunder Bay have no plans to give up on their message. They will be holding a rally outside of City Hall this coming Monday and another public meeting October 1st. Dennis Ward, TBT News.
Well, it now looks like a ballot box question on the event center will be proposed by a city councillor this coming Monday. Linda Riddom says she has drafted a motion calling for a question to be included in the upcoming municipal election. The motion is now with the clerk's office. The councillor says she won't talk about the specific wording until her colleagues have had a chance to see the question first.
Thousands of Thunder Bay Hydro customers were without power this afternoon. At one point, as many as 3,800 customers were left without service. Hydro officials aren't sure what caused the outage, but say the problem was underground. It affected most of Northwood and parts of Westford. Sherbrooke Elementary School, St. Francis and St. Vincent schools were all affected as well, although power was only out for about a half an hour to 45 minutes. The outage was quickly fixed for most hydro customers, but some areas were without power for extended periods of time, including complete blocks of Simon Fraser Drive, North James Street, and West Churchill.
Fire investigators say the cause of a damaging blaze yesterday on Onion Lake Road will remain undetermined. Officials with Thunder Bay Fire Rescue say because the home is a complete loss, it limits what investigators can do. The fire started just after 9 o'clock Tuesday morning, and fire crews were at the scene for the majority of the day. Flames were seen coming from a window of a bedroom and quickly spread to the attic of the home. Due to the location of the residence, transporting water to the home posed a number of challenges for fire crews.
Oh, there must have been at least half a dozen pumpers. You know, it's somewhat rural of an address, so there's no hydrants close by the house, so they had to shuttle water. And they did their best. It became a defensive attack, but like I said, everybody got out safely, so nobody got injured.
The fire marshal's office was called, but after review, decided not to conduct an investigation.
Nishnawbe Police and the fire marshal's office have launched an investigation following an early morning fire Monday in the remote community of Fort Severn. Police say several people were able to escape from a burning home, but one person remains unaccounted for. However, police say they cannot confirm any deaths at this time. Fort Severn is located about 850 kilometers north of Thunder Bay.
The long-term prognosis for Ontario's economy is not good. The province's finance minister is warning a rising number of seniors will shrink the workforce. Charles Sousa forecasts Ontario's economic growth will average 2.1% between now and 2035. That's lower than the national, American, and global growth forecasts.
Local union leaders gathered last night to try to stop Tim Hudak from becoming the next Premier of Ontario. The unions say his policies will ruin the labour movement. The president of the Ontario Federation of Labour, Sid Ryan, says Hudak has plans to reduce pensions and lower wages across the province. And he says when a Caterpillar machinery plant moved to the U.S., Hudak pointed to wage reduction as a feasible way to keep the plant in Ontario. Representatives from several unions were in attendance. The goal was to give members an opposing view to what Hudak and the Conservative Party is saying.
Well, ideologically, he just hates unions, and he's looking for a way to undermine unions. And the way you do that is to cut off their funding. So what he's attempting to do is bring in legislation that would effectively undermine the labour movement by allowing union members to opt out of the collective agreement.
Going with this plan of right-to-work legislation, an attack on the RAND formula, because it certainly will create social instability, it will create and force the union to become far more radical, and of course it's going to affect businesses, it's going to affect the social peace between business and workers, and by necessity, unions are going to become far more militant.
Ryan says he hopes there will be labour reform coming in areas like successor rights and off-site voting for employees.
Residents in Nipissing have begun to mobilize against a possible nuclear waste repository in their town. Northern Ontario environmental group called North Watch hosted a public meeting in the community last night. The event attracted over a dozen individuals who are now joining forces to oppose the project. Jonathan Wilson reports.
Officials with Northwatch are letting communities shortlisted by the Nuclear Waste Management Organization see the other side of the argument around these deep storage repositories. Coordinator Brene Lloyd says there is no scientific proof that the units won't leak, and her group is also worried about catastrophes occurring during the transportation of nuclear waste. Her third concern is about the social impact on small towns involved in the NWMO's Learn More process.
In other communities, we've seen it be very divisive and really, really split communities apart.
Some of the residents attending this meeting say they thought they were alone in opposing the nuclear waste coming to Nipissing, but after hearing others speak up, the talk switched to getting together to start a petition and let Nipissing Council know it's time to remove itself from the list.
It's dragged Nipissing's good name through the mud. I've heard from people that are concerned, asking me what the heck is Nipissing doing with this, even considering this. So the sooner we say no to it and get this out of here, the better.
This group has met tonight, and this is the first time that we've really all spoken publicly about our desire to make this go away. And so we're going to organize ourselves and make our opinion known to our municipal government.
I think the main messages that I've been hearing is that most people don't want the nuclear waste here anymore, that they have enough information, they know what they want, and they don't want it here.
Lloyd says it was a coincidence that this meeting was held at the same time the NWMO was in Nipissing for 2 open houses on the project. Spokesperson Pat Delcetti says they had several dozen people pass through to find out more about the project, which will cost billions of dollars when it's eventually built. He says they're currently in the elimination process, going from 21 interested communities to 15. Residents in Nipissing should know in about a year whether their town is moving up in the process, like Ignace and Schreiber have already done.
So at the end of phase 1, we will make an assessment on whether or not Nipissing has a strong potential to continue into phase 2. And if the work shows that there isn't strong potential, either because of the geology or perhaps the potential for the community to embrace the project, then there would be a recommendation that the community no longer continues in the process.
Lloyd says the latest that communities can opt out themselves is after step 5 of the 9-step process. Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
North Watch will be hosting another public meeting tonight in Schreiber starting at 7 o'clock and a third one in White River on Thursday evening. Meanwhile, the Nuclear Waste Management Organization will be hosting open houses in White River next Monday and Tuesday, followed by Manitouwadge on Thursday and Friday of next week.
A pair of transport trucks were involved in a crash last night on Highway 1117 between Thunder Bay and Nipissing. The collision occurred around 8 o'clock at one of the entranceways to the new Flying J Travel Plaza at Pass Lake. Ontario Provincial Police say the two occupants in this vehicle suffered only minor injuries, but damage to the rig was extensive, and employees were busy transferring the cargo to another transport. The other rig involved in the crash was an auto carrier. Both the transport and a pickup truck on the top deck were managed, but the driver was okay. OPP say that one of the truckers has now been charged with making an improper right turn.
Since 1986, over 500 people across the Anishinaabe-Aski Nation have committed suicide. That number only continues to grow. Today, the Northern Ontario School of Medicine launched a new training program in an effort to respond to the high rates of suicide in the region. Courtney Rutherford reports.
I think the biggest thing about this is that suicide prevention isn't just about saving lives, it's about showing people that their lives are worth living.
Scott Chisholm was in grade 12 when he lost his dad to suicide. Since his death, Chisholm has advocated throughout the community in an effort to reduce the stigma that surrounds suicide and to get people talking.
So we want to fundamentally look at the issues that lead up to suicide and deal with those, because that's what it's all about. It's not about suicide, it's about the issues that lead up to it.
According to the Northwestern Health Unit's 2013 Public Health Report Card, residents in Northwestern Ontario are committing suicide at a rate 3.5 times higher than the provincial average, many of those in First Nation communities.
You know, when you look at what's happened in the Northern Territory over the last 25, 26 years, it's pretty staggering in terms of the numbers of completed suicides, and there's no sign of it slowing down.
The Northern Ontario School of Medicine is responding to the situation by incorporating awareness training into their curriculum. First-year med students will now undergo Safe Talk training, a program that will help them identify people who are experiencing thoughts of suicide and connect them with suicide first aid resources.
It's so important that we equip them. It's not the same, perhaps, as doing a physical exam, but I think learning how to work with people with mental health problems and to treat them effectively and respectfully is an essential skill for any young doctor.
Community support workers, including youth, are currently receiving and promoting Safe Talk workshops in approximately half of NAN's 49 member communities. Courtney Rutherford, TBT News.
1 in 94 Canadians are affected by autism. Today is International Awareness for Autism Day, and Westgate High School pulled some of its students together to help the cause. Westgate has approximately 1 in 48 students who are affected by autism. Many Thunder Bay schools, along with other places across Canada, kicked off April's Autism Awareness Month with a fundraiser and education event. Students at Westgate sold popcorn for $1 while handing out red ribbons and pamphlets explaining autism and the special help autistic students may need in high school.
Teaching autistic students has come a long way over the course of the last few years, and students with autism require a little bit of different accommodations to their program to make them successful.
I get to raise money for the classmates, and it's always fun for Autism Red and Black Day.
Autism Ontario chose red as the color this year to associate strength and power with autism. All funds raised from this event will go to their organization.
A pair of American icebreakers were putting in long hours in the Thunder Bay Harbor today to break up the 2 to 3 feet of ice on Lake Superior. The warmer temperatures we had today helped, but it will still be a few days before enough of the bay is navigable to shipping vessels. The Katmai Bay plowing through the thick ice along the harbor, while the larger icebreaker, the Alder, was clearing a path from the lake to Kiefer Terminal. Harbor Master Guy Jarvis says the work will allow ships like the CSL Tadoussac, which is docked at Kiefer, to head out early next week. But the timeline for opening the local port also depends on shipping companies and who wants to come in.
On Whitefish Bay and the St. Mary's River, there are significant ice challenges there. They will be having 2 heavier icebreakers working in that area of Lake Superior in the next couple of days. So we'll see how that progresses, and hopefully by the middle or end of next week, we'll have some ships arriving in Thunder Bay.